Hello, everyone, and welcome. Happy to have you here today for this Discover Dornsife program. My name is Stacey Badger, and I am one of the admission counselors here in the USC Dornsife office. Today, we're going to be talking about the natural science and mathematics field here at USC Dornsife. This event is being held by the Dornsife Office of Admission and Student Success, and some of my colleagues are going to be here in the background answering some of the questions and helping me host a bit today. Just for some logistics in today's webinar, we're going to be having the Q&A box as the portion where you'll be able to ask your questions for today. Don't worry about that right now. That is at the bottom of your screen. I'll let you know when we open that up. But in the meantime, I'm excited to introduce you to the students who will be sharing some of their experiences today. And I'll go ahead and invite them to come on in and turn on their cameras and microphones to introduce themselves.
Okay, so my name is Aiko. I'm a junior here at USC and I'm studying biological sciences with an emphasis in environment, ecology, and evolution. And I also have a Spanish minor. I'm from Maryland, so East Coast represents. And right now, my plans post-grad are to pursue PhD, probably in something related to marine biology, but we will see. And then outside of classes, I partake in marine biology research here on campus, which I can elaborate on a bit later. And I'm also an intern here at the Dornsife Office of Admissions.
Hi, my name is Jackson. I'm a junior studying applied math. I'm from Hebron, Connecticut, and I am don't have a minor right now, but I am planning on going into pharmaceuticals post-grad, and I am the social chair for the USC sailing team, as well as the vice president of special events for the USC Society 53.
Hi everyone, my name is Megan. I'm a senior majoring in quantitative biology, and I have a minor in business administration. I am a pre-med student, so hopefully going to medical school after undergrad. And a few important activities are I'm involved in immune cell cancer research in the quantitative biology department. I'm president of my a cappella team, Aslibat. We do South Asian fusion music and go to competitions. And I'm also part of the Marshall Case team, which is like a case consulting team that I found with my business minor. I'm from the Chicago suburbs. I don't know if I said that already. But yeah, super excited for this webinar.
Awesome. Thank you all. And so before we jump in with questions for these amazing students, I do want to give a quick overview of Dornsife, just in case you haven't been able to hear about Dornsife yet or haven't been able to do some research yet, or if you want to be reminded about a few things about USC Dornsife in general. So overall, USC does have quite a few campuses, or I should say schools within our one campus. We have a bunch of schools within the campus. Dornsife is the largest school on campus. We are the liberal arts college, and so we are the home of the natural sciences, the social sciences, and the humanities. So we're all in one place. Overall, we have around 36% or so of the undergraduate student population. In our last incoming class, we actually had around 40% of the student population. So we are a very significant presence on campus. We have over 90 majors and 90 minors. So we have just over 180 programs here on campus for our students to choose from. We have around 66 or so research centers. So if you're interested in doing research as an undergraduate student, we'll talk about that in a little bit, but there are a lot of opportunities to make that happen. We have around 50 or so study abroad programs in around 30 countries. So again, that's a lot of opportunity for our students to get a study abroad experience if they are interested in doing so. And I know all of that sounds really big and can maybe sound really daunting, but definitely know that we do our best to keep our class sizes smaller with around 17%, or sorry, around 17 or so students per class that are average class size. And then we also try to keep our faculty to staff, or student to faculty ratio at about 8-to-1. So about 8 students to 1 faculty member. And I know I mentioned before too that we have over 90 majors and around 90 minors here. We don't have time to go over every single program that we have, so our 3 students are going to talk about the pieces that they're in. And again, today we are emphasizing the natural sciences and our mathematics programs. But to talk a little bit more about majors, I do want to turn it over to our students to talk about what they do within their major and what that looks like. And so Aiko, do you want to start us off with that too?
Sure. So, like I said, I'm a biological sciences major, which is quite a broad field. So, Dornsife offers a few different specializations within that. And so I chose the ecology and environment evolution one. So this just means that after you take your introductory or more basic biology and chemistry courses, your specialized classes are going to focus more on those three topics like ecology, or one of the classes I took was Introduction to Ecology. Another one was Population Genetics. So really, it just means that the more advanced classes are going to focus on that emphasis, and this emphasis also has more opportunities for field research. Um, so yeah, that's basically an overview of my biological sciences major. And then I also have a Spanish minor, and essentially this is kind of what you would expect from any language minor. It's a lot smaller than a major in terms of course load, but you just are required to take a certain number of introductory Spanish courses, and then you get to select from a few interesting and fun upper division classes. Like, for example, I'm taking a Spanish linguistics class. There's also a Hispanic food of Los Angeles class that I could take. So lots of different ways to expand upon your language learning.
So Jackson, go ahead and jump in with applied math.
Sure. Yeah. So I study applied math, and for my program, as you can guess, it is mostly math courses. But the math program at USC allows you to pick up a concentration in a different subject, so you can get cross functionality with your degree. So, for example, I'm on the physics track, so I've had the ability to take other physics classes and explore. I tried out business, I tried out computer science for a while, and found out that wasn't quite my thing, but I could still do my math, and I'm loving physics now. So it gives you a lot of room to explore the math department itself, as well as the things that you can do with it afterwards. So I'm very happy with my math program and for the resources, especially in Caprillion Hall, where most of my classes are.
I can go next. So, as I mentioned, I'm a quantitative biology major. So, every time I mention that, people are always like, "Whoa, what is that?" But it's more simple than it seems. But it's basically like half bio and then half CS. So, a lot of the bio classes that you'll take are like foundational. So, probably similar to ICO's foundational biology classes as well. And then the cool part is the quantitative applications that are also added through like the CS courses you take. So you'll take like the basic foundational ones like Intro to C++ and discrete math. And then as you go higher, your upper division classes will be more interdisciplinary. So like right now I'm in like a structural bioinformatics class where we kind of study life systems from like a computational lens. So you learn like different data analysis techniques and then some machine learning and how that kind of works its way into bio. Personally, I love this major just because I've always been interested in like the more computational field of things. And also I think it's like super applicable as like technology is like integrated in pretty much everything now. Yeah, and also it's like you can kind of choose how you want to specialize your upper division classes. So people like me who are pre-med, it also gives you like a way to take all of your pre-med requisites classes like biochem, organic chemistry. But yeah, I just really like how interdisciplinary the major is and like how it really like prepares you for more than just like medicine. And in case you decide to take another route, like a lot of people go into biotech industry. So also it's just super applicable.
Well, that's great. So along with these major courses that you all take within your department, USC also has students take general education classes or GEs. And so I know you're all part of a GE track as well. And so the general education track, that is more of like the track that all USC students are required to take. Every single student who comes through USC, regardless of which school they're admitted to, will be in Dornsife at some point because of these general education classes. And those are classes that are based in a lot of different subjects. So they can be things in the arts, they can be things in the social sciences, they can be different history courses, different things that are basically mapped out to be taken over your time at USC. And so Jackson, why don't you tell us a little bit about your experiences with your GE classes here so far at USC?
Yeah, sure. So a lot of my experience with GEs, I've been taking courses that allow me to kind of explore Los Angeles a little bit more and get out of the classroom more. So, for example, I took my life sciences GE. I took the museum class through the geology department. And a lot of that class involves going around Los Angeles, going to the La Brea tar pits, going to the museums we have on campus. And a lot of the labs are hands-on learning that allow you to explore and they encourage you to go out and see things. Right now, I'm in a film class as well. So they do film screenings, and that's through the cinema school. And I have no tie to the cinema school through my major, but I can still take those courses to fulfill my GE requirements. I also have a food class right now, which we are going to the LA Food Festival next Thursday, I believe it is, for a field trip in the class. And it's a nice way to get around and see some more things in Los Angeles. So I know a lot of y'all have AP credits that transfer over, and I did too, and that satisfied a lot of it. But a lot of the gen ed courses that you do at USC will allow you to explore your other interests, and you may discover things that you didn't know you wanted before. Like I took physics for the first time when I was trying to do my GEF, which is the quantitative reasoning gen ed, and it helped me fall into the minor that I'm trying to pursue and help me push my major along. So it's been a really positive experience.
I love that. A lot of times when I'm doing presentations and I tell students about general education classes, sometimes I almost see their shoulders drop of like, oh no, I have to take these classes. But all of those classes you just mentioned, Jackson, sound so fun, especially getting to go eat food in LA. That's amazing. But even though we have, of course, our general education track, if you are very interested maybe in more of a heavy reading and writing type subjects, even though you're interested in the natural sciences, you don't want to necessarily leave that behind. We do have options for that as well. And we have a program that's called Thematic Option for our students who do like that more reading and writing intensive type of subject matter. And with those classes, they're a little bit in a much smaller setting, and you get to basically have, again, more books that you're reading, more writing in your classes, more discussion-based sections as well too. And it's usually based on some type of theme that the class has as their subject matter. If you are like, that sounds interesting to me, that's great. Maybe you do want to lean more into the sciences piece because you're interested in the natural sciences or mathematics field. We also have a program that's called Freshman Science Honors. And so with that, students can take introduction, basically their introductory courses, biology and chemistry in a more honors-based setting. So it's getting a little bit deeper into that nitty-gritty of biology and chemistry and those intro settings again too, smaller class sizes, and with that sort of getting to know your professors on a different level as well. Both Thematic Option and Freshman Science Honors are programs that you would only apply to if you've been admitted to USC, so it's nothing you need to apply to or indicate on your application as of yet. But we do want to introduce you to what those programs can be. And Aiko has been part of both of those programs because she's amazing. And I know Megan has also been part of Freshman Science Honors as well. So I'm going to have them go through their experiences. And so Megan, why don't you start us off with talking a little bit about Freshman Science Honors?
Sure. So I joined FSH because I kind of just heard of it as like an honors program, and like high school mindset, do honors everything. I was just like, oh, like let me just try this out. And I really enjoyed it. I think some of my best friends are still friends that I met in FSH. I think it's really nice because of the smaller class sizes. Like your Gen Bio and Gen Chem classes are usually like a lot bigger. But with FSH, the class sizes are like 60 people, which is significantly smaller for like an intro level class. And I think the coolest part for me was the bio lab section. So my year when I did FSH, instead of just doing like different labs every week that I think like Bio 120 classes do, which is the non-FSH version. In the FSH version, you do like your own research project. So like you start from the beginning of the semester to the end with like your own experiment. And then that was really helpful because like it was my first time doing research in college. So like you get a feel for kind of like doing your own experiment in like your groups. And it's also really helpful when you want to apply to an actual research lab outside of classes, because you can talk about like how you've had this research experience that a lot of other students haven't had at that point. So I did kelp research with it in marine biology in like the Wrigley Institute on Catalina Island. So that was a super cool experience. Also, you got like my chem professors with FSH wrote me letter of recommendations. So it's like that, just those smaller class sizes, your one-on-one time with your professors, and like the unique experience that the bio lab gives you. I think those are like the three main things that make FSH really worth it. And of course, like my two best friends, I literally met in FSH, which is crazy. So I definitely think it's a great program. It is academically rigorous, so you do have to be prepared to put in that extra time, especially for bio, I would say. But to me, it was worth it.
Awesome. Aiko, do you want to tell us a little bit about your experiences with maybe FSH and TO in thematic option?
Sure. So I think Megan hit all of the really important parts. The only thing I would add is that being part of FSH, you also get to partake in some things outside of the classroom that are not available to the non-FSH students. So my year, we went on a few field trips, and the one that I still remember very vividly is when we went to Abalone Cove, south of campus by quite a few miles, and we went to the tide pools there, and we got to interact with the tide pools there and pick up sea hares, which are basically a sea slug native to California. And it was really awesome to see the creatures that we were learning about in class in person and be able to also get closer with our classmates. Like Megan said, it's a smaller class size, but then also being able to get closer through things like this was really nice. And then as someone who's not from LA, being able to get off campus and do something both educational and fun was such a good opportunity. And then for thematic option or TO, so this program is definitely not easy, but I think that it's really challenged me to become a better writer. And even though as a STEM student, your writing skills are probably not going to be your number one priority, every discipline requires communication or developing your communication skills, which of course writing is part of. So even though I'm biological sciences, I'm gonna have to write lab reports. I'm going to have to write scientific publications, and being able to get a strong foundation of that in thematic option, I think has really helped me in both some of my science classes where like we've had to do some sort of report, but then also in the future when I hope to become a science researcher, but also for other fields within science as well, even in medicine, for example. So I would say both of these programs have definitely given me strong foundations, FSH being in the most basic or more basic, biology and chemistry courses, but then TO in the communication abilities. And beyond that is also I think the benefits of FSH and TO in terms of class size and the program setup are similar. So because TO is smaller, you definitely get a lot more one-on-one support is definitely a lot more accessible from your professor. It just because the classes are that much smaller, it's not as maybe daunting to reach out to them. I will say at USC in general, faculty are very generally very open and communicative with their students, and they want their students to succeed. But of course, when your class is, maybe 10 people instead of 50, it's a lot easier to approach them. So both of them, I think, have really enriched my academic experience, even though it was definitely a challenge doing both at the same time my freshman year. I think I'm still really glad I did it, and I feel like I'm a better student now because of it.
Awesome. I love that. So that's great hearing about those general education programs. One of the things that we also like to emphasize very much at USC in general, but especially in Dornsife, is interdisciplinary education. We always like to make sure our students have options to, of course, take classes and maybe add minors or double majors with classes and subjects within the Dornsife College. Again, we have those 90 majors and minors to choose from. But USC also makes it very accessible to take classes or minor or double major in schools outside of Dornsife as well. And so I was hoping that Megan could talk a little bit about her experience of minoring in our Marshall School of Business and what that experience has been like for you as well, Megan.
Sure, yeah. I think business for me was definitely a step outside of my comfort zone or something I'd ever really do. But I decided to try it and I really fell in love with consulting specifically. So it was like a super cool way to experience like an entire new realm of academics and career outside of medicine. So like some classes that I needed to take were like organizational behavior and then like management consulting and strategy. So I think it's a very different world than natural sciences. I think it's less like academically rigorous. So you get to spend more time like communicating with people and learning like kind of the ins and outs of businesses. The professors are also really cool. Like one of my professors is like the head of the international department for Marshall. So like having like that one-on-one time with him and just like learning about his experiences and everything is really cool. And also because of my minor, I had the opportunity to like try out for the Marshall case team, which is like an international case competition team. So like 2 weeks ago, they flew me out to Hong Kong to compete in like an international case competition, which was really cool because you get to like meet teams from all over the world. And Marshall like covered everything because it's like a Marshall-based faculty organization. But it's just like a really cool experience to try something outside of Dornsife. And because I really fell in love with the consulting aspect, with like just talking to people and strategizing, that's something that's really become integral in my like academic career. And hopefully like I'm taking a gap year before medical school. So that's something I'm interested in doing like within that gap year. So like exploring maybe biotech consulting or healthcare consulting or something along those lines.
Very cool. I know you're also getting a progressive degree as well at USC. So just to make it clear to you, a progressive degree at USC, you might have heard other universities maybe call it a 4+1 program, but generally what it is at USC is students start taking master's courses as an undergraduate student. They usually stay about one additional year, but it depends on how many units and things they have. But it's very common for students to stay for that 5th year to get that progressive degree. And so once they finish that 5th year, they'll have both a bachelor's degree and a master's degree. And so Megan, what has that looked like for you? What is your degree in? And how much more time do you have left for that?
So I decided to do my progressive degree in quantitative and computational biology, which it's pretty much the same as the quantitative biology undergrad. It's the same department. And I wanted to do it just because it's kind of like an extension of what I've already developed. I think the undergrad degree does a really good job of teaching you the basics and like a higher level of QBio. But with the PDP, you go like more into depth and gain like the skills necessary to really work in industry. So like a lot of the data analysis and like the programming languages you use and just like the perspective you gain when you're just looking at like a set of data is a lot more like refined through like the master's program compared to just the undergrad. And I'm actually finishing a semester early. So because I came in with some AP credits, I was able to, instead of taking like the full year, finish in 4.5 years, which if I didn't have my minor, I would have been able to finish in 4 years. So it's kind of like, what do you want out of your USC, journey? Like if you're coming in with AP credits and you decide, I want to do my master's and bachelor's like in 4 or 4.5 years, then you can start planning that early. But I would generally recommend like taking the 5 years or maybe 4.5, just because like you don't want to miss out on some of the cool classes you could be taking otherwise. And I also didn't start my PDP until like this semester. So it took me a long time to decide what masters I wanted to take because there's so many different options. So like just picking took me like a solid year. But I'm really happy I went with the QBio PDP. It's also nice because like a lot of the professors are the same, so you already have like a good connection with both the students and the professors.
Awesome. That's great. So we're going to go ahead and also talk about some more of the experiences our students can have as Dornsife students. I know a lot of times natural science students are interested in doing things in research, and there's different projects that students can be involved in. Like I mentioned before, there are 66 or so research centers on campus, so it is very possible to do research as an undergraduate student. And Aiko, I know you've done research in quite a few different realms, and so what has that looked like for you?
Yeah, so I started doing research the summer after my freshman year with my biology professor from the freshman science honors program. So that's another benefit of the program I didn't mention is that it can be a little bit easier to get involved in research that way. But basically, in this lab that I've been involved with now for the past year and a half, they look at how algae, which make oxygen in the ocean, kind of like trees, how they are going to change as our oceans change with climate change. So that was a lot of change, but basically they're using they're collecting actual data points to then plug into computer models and see how broader systems that these organisms are connected to. So like the amount of oxygen they're taking, or excuse me, the amount of carbon dioxide they're taking in, oxygen they're spitting out. How is that going to change? And how are the organisms that eat them going to change? Because algae are very, very small, right? And they're eaten by larger and larger organisms. So I came into this lab with no experience at all in research, but it was a very supportive environment. And I can genuinely say, like, a year and a half later, I'm still very passionate about this project that I've definitely become able to manage more independently as I've gained more skills. So I think that it's overall been a very good experience, and it actually got me interested in marine biology as something I might want to pursue as a career to begin with, because that's not really something that was on my radar when I first came to college. But even if you're not interested in doing research as your career, it's still a really good experience to just gain certain like lab techniques and then also more soft skills like being able to read a bunch of scientific literature and then look at results from your experiment and be able to interpret that. That's a skill that you can use in a lot of different fields. And I think USC does a very good job at supporting undergraduates in research, both through opportunities, but then there's also various funding sources for students. And also you can get academic credit in certain departments if you partake in research. So I've been able to do both of those options, both get scholarships for my research, but then also get course credits. And then I'm talking a lot here, but outside of this one marine biology lab I've been a part of, I also took a course this spring. So there are some courses at US or within Dornsife that you can take after your normal classes, and it starts right after your finals called Maymester. So I did one this spring where we looked at field techniques for mammalogy. And mammalogy is the study of mammals. So every week for 4 weeks, we would go camping somewhere different in the California area. And we would set traps for small mammals in the region so that we could practice techniques that real wildlife biologists use to measure or to approximate or estimate the populations of animals in that area. And I'm not necessarily interested in becoming a mammalogist, but field research is something I might be. And so I wanted to do something that was very low stakes and informational. And it was the perfect opportunity for that. And I've never seen so many cute animals in my life. You might think like, oh, small rodents, that's like like rats, I don't want to look at that. But they were so adorable and teeny tiny, and I'll never forget that experience. And also being able to spend time outdoors like that when we go to school within a city was really nice.
Awesome. That's great. And Megan, I know you've been able to do some research too. What does that look like for you?
Yeah, so I started freshman year, as I mentioned, through the freshman science honors program in similar marine biology research as ICO. And then second semester, I switched to a computational neuroscience lab where I studied vocal learning in birds. And then now I'm at my current research lab, where I study immune cells and their kind of reactions in cancers. So it's like kind of how a specific immune cell will evolve in its phenotype and like its expression as it's infected in a cancer environment. So I just joined that lab this semester, so I'm still kind of getting to know the ropes and everything. But I like this lab a lot because it takes more of a computational focus, which is something that I'm kind of exploring with my PDP, and looking at different cell to cell interactions and how we can kind of visualize those in graphs and plots, and hopefully like see if there's a potential treatment that causes like an interaction that's favorable in cancer patients. So yeah, that's kind of the research I'm doing right now. And the professor I'm doing it with is actually one of my master's classes professors. So I met him through that class, and then I emailed him and asked to be in his lab. So if you want research, it's a lot of cold emailing. It helps a lot if you ask your professors. But lots of failures getting into a lab until you finally get one, and then hopefully that one sticks. So I think one interesting thing that I like about research at USC too is like you have 4 years. So I would say like take the 4 years to kind of explore different research fields until you find one that you genuinely like. Like I was in my previous lab for almost 2 years. And then I decided to pivot because I found a more interesting topic that I wanted to like kind of spend more time researching. So definitely like you can stick with one lab or experiment more throughout your 4 years, which is kind of the path that I've taken.
Awesome. I love that. That's also some great advice too. Be sure to advocate for yourself when reaching out to faculty and getting into these research positions. But that's great. I do want to pivot a little bit too from research to internships. And so I know that a lot of times students are interested in how they can get involved in internships, what that can look like for them. There's definitely a lot of ways to get involved in research or to get involved in internships. And we have our career office, our career pathways office here in Dornsife as well to help students kind of navigate that process. And they work specifically with our Dornsife students. But Jackson, I know you've had some internship experience, and what has that been like for you? How did you get that internship, and did you enjoy your time?
Yeah, so I interned at the Pfizer office in Groton, Connecticut this past summer. And that was an opportunity that I had heard about through the USC career offices. And they actually recently posted the offering for next summer on our Handshake platform this morning. So I'm very excited about that. But I did some data and digital innovation work for them, which was a lot of programming. And I used the skills that I gained at USC to gain that internship. And going in, I thought I'd be underqualified because I was coming from a mathematics background and I was going into more of a software engineering data science role. But I found that my classes at USC that I had taken had more than prepared me for that kind of field, and that the things that I was scared to do for an engineering role or things that I thought I needed um, a different kind of degree for, I was more than qualified for with my math degree. So I found that being in that kind of space and getting towards that internship isn't really dependent on what the actual name on your degree is, but more about the skills and the classes that you end up taking. But I was really grateful to have that experience at the Groton office because it was so close to my home. And I am excited to work with the USC career offices for my future career endeavors.
Awesome. That's exciting. I love that. I love that it was all within USC too, of like finding those experiences and everything as well. So research, internships, definitely things our students can take part of. I know I mentioned earlier too, studying abroad. That is a huge part of what our students like to do here in Dornsife. And I mentioned before too, we do have a lot of study abroad opportunities. Students can do that traditional study abroad option where they go away for that full semester or even full year sometimes. Students can do that Maymester, like Aiko was mentioning. Sometimes students will not just end up staying in Catalina, but they can actually go to other countries and do different pieces there as well. We have a Mathmester in Rome for all of our mathematics students, so they can do that as an option as well. But Megan, I know you were able to do a July Mester, which is sort of the backwards version of a Maymester, where you start your class in another place and then finish it at USC as opposed to starting it at USC and finishing it another place. So what was your July Mester like in Oxford?
Yeah, so I did a July semester at Oxford University, and its focus was on the biology behind infectious diseases and public health. So I think, first of all, just going to Oxford was a crazy opportunity. I don't think I would have gotten the opportunity had it not been for USC. So we got to live in the Oxford dorms and we were there for about 3 weeks. And the class itself was really cool because it was a new guest lecturer every day. And it wasn't just like a lecture, it was like they were presenting their research and they were presenting like their thoughts and experiences with public health. So we got to hear from the woman, Dr. Suzanne Hodgson, that pioneered the COVID vaccine in the UK. So the AstraZeneca vaccine, she was the one that her team was the one that really did the research, published, and launched it. So it was really, really cool to hear from someone who's so qualified, educated, and experienced in the field. And then also, like through the July semester, I just got to go around UK and Oxford campus. I brought back so much Oxford merch. But overall, it was just a really cool experience being in a different country. There is also funding that USC can provide you for like a July semester or a May semester. I would say that's definitely one of the coolest experiences I've had, just because I was able to go to a different country and learn more about public health. We also like got to see a lot of the historical landmarks that are associated with public health, such as the cholera outbreak. All of that happened in Britain, so we got to go to ground zero of the cholera outbreak and kind of see like all the different scientists and like what they were doing there. So just seeing the history and how it ties into medicine, which is my desired career path, I think that was super cool.
Awesome. That's great. So that basically, there are, like I mentioned before too, a lot of different options for students to go abroad. So Megan's route was one way to do that. Students also can combine sort of service learning, and they're able to go abroad for different service learning projects at different times too. They can do research abroad with their problems without passports as well. So there's different ways to make abroad happen if you want to as well. And speaking of service learning opportunities, there are a lot within the Dornsife College as well. And so students are able to kind of take the things that they're learning in the classroom and teach them to others outside as well. So students are able to tutor students within the neighborhood, and some of the things that they're learning within their natural science classes, we're able to teach them things like programming. I've seen students also do different pre-law classes, things like that within schools through part of our joint educational project, as well as a prison education project as well. And so definitely these are real-time students that are, say, real-time things that they're learning within the classroom, and bringing them to students to kind of expose them to different topics, different subjects, and let them know sort of the way that natural sciences, social sciences, and humanities can kind of be brought to them in different areas of their lives, and let them know the different programs that exist that maybe they never heard of before as well as different research topics and things like that as well. So there's a lot of students within Dornsife that advocate for that as well. But I do want to move on and let everybody know that this is a great time, if you have not yet, to put your question into that Q&A box. We will go through as many as we can before time ends, but it'll also be a combination of answering them here. And then, like I mentioned earlier, my colleagues will be answering some of the questions as much as they can, again, within that chat box as well. But as people are putting in those questions, I do want to talk about the support that we have at USC. So Jackson, do you want to talk about what it has been like working with your academic advisors and the support that you've been able to get from them as a USC student?
Yeah, it's been really great working with the USC advising team. I came in with a lot of credits from my math classes that I'd taken beforehand. I'd taken a bunch of courses at the University of Connecticut before starting USC as a freshman while I was in high school. And the advising team was really helpful in helping me to get my courses transferred over and help me get rid of some of those prerequisite classes that I took that were supposed to be Calc 1 and Calc 2, things that you, as a math major, you come into with a little bit more, you're a little more accustomed to that, and you don't need to repeat those classes. So they were very helpful in helping me find a track where I could take the most challenging classes as possible. And my advisor's actually been really great to me. I'm graduating in 3 years instead of the traditional 4, because my advisors helped me create a course plan with the math classes that I have, that I can put all of my units together without having to exceed the normal 18-unit cap on USC classes. But I am very grateful for being able to have that experience. I will say, if you do have other math experience, it will not go wasted, even though you have the there's a AP credit cap and a transfer credit cap when you come to USC. So the advising team is very helpful with helping you get credit for what you've done and the work that you've done so you can take more difficult classes and really push yourself to the max.
Awesome. And so, Aiko, what are your experiences like with your advisors?
They've all been really, really great. So in my freshman year, my first year advisor, uh, she knew that I was interested in Spanish language, so she suggested the Spanish minor program to me, and I looked into it, and it seemed like something, or it was feasible and also very interesting to me. So it was very simple. I just told her I wanted to do it, and then we worked out a course plan for the next 4 years for me to be able to fit that into my schedule. And for my major, I actually came in as an environment and health major. But then I just happened to discover the major I am now, which is biological sciences with the emphasis. I told my advisor that I wanted to switch into that. And again, very simple. She just did that. And that's because both of these programs were within Dornsife, but I also have friends who have double majors outside of Dornsife and minors outside of Dornsife. And the process is a little bit, it's slightly more complex than just being able to add it with your advisor, but again, you'll still have the support of your advisor to work through that. All in all, though, I would not be where I am today without my academic advisor, and she's always helped me stay on top of all of my requirements and feel good about the classes I'm taking.
Awesome. And lastly, Megan, do you want to quickly talk about the pre-health advisors and what that process has been like for you?
Yeah, of course. So Dornsife has a pre-health advising department for anyone who's pre-PA, nursing, or pre-medicine. So this is where I met my advisor, Gina. She is so sweet, very understanding, and always available for me to meet if I'm ever feeling stressed or have any questions about like what my application needs to look like or what I can kind of do if I'm facing like any kind of issue. So for example, like there was a class that I was in that I was like not doing too well in, and she kind of gave me advice about like how I can proceed in terms of turning my grade back around, or from like a broader med school perspective, like like it's okay, like they don't care, like they will not put so much emphasis on like any given class, so just having like a reassurance role. And I'd also been kind of pre-med, not pre-med, pre-med, not pre-med for like a solid 2 years. So she was there to walk me through that and make sure I didn't feel overwhelmed by like the decision. But and then now I am part of the student advisory board for that pre-health office. So like after, getting that pre-health advice, I really loved how the department works. And then now I want to give pre-health advice to other students as well.
Awesome. Well, great. Thank you all. So some of the questions that have been coming through the chat, I know we've been talking a lot about academics, but I want to ask sort of the three of you what your experiences have been like with campus involvement that maybe are not just academic, and what types of interests you guys have sort of outside of just your academic courses. So what has that kind of been like? And Aiko, why don't you start us off with that?
I'm so sorry. Could you repeat the question? It just sort of cut out for me.
Oh yeah, no problem. So like what types of things have you been involved in outside of your academics? What are some of the popular things maybe that you see amongst your peers as well?
So outside of research and all of that, and my job here at Dornsife, I'm also on the club track and field and cross country team. So I grew up, or yeah, in high school, I did both track and cross country, and running is a real passion of mine. So I just found this club and I decided to join, and it's been a really great space for me to exercise and get to spend time outdoors but also find a real community of people at USC, which has been really amazing. I think club sports at USC is definitely one of the larger extracurricular involvements for students because lots of people did sports in high school and want to continue that here. But then I also grew up playing cello, and that was a passion of mine that I wanted to keep doing, but maybe not become a performance major. So the Thornton School of Music here at USC offers classes for individual instruction where you can learn most instruments from a grad student who's currently in Thornton, and you don't need to have any background experience for this. I just happen to. And then you get to meet once a week with them and, learn your instrument and become better. And that class has been a lot of fun for me. Even though it is a class, I would still kind of think of it as extracurricular because it's totally different from any of my classes. And I'm still practicing on my own time, or I'm supposed to be practicing on my own time. If my teacher asks, I am. So those are two things that I've really enjoyed. Probably the sports one is more common for students, but there are lots of other clubs people are involved with, like the SC Outfitters Club, I think is one of the larger ones if you're into the outdoors. I'm not sure if Jackson or Megan have experience with those, but basically they're sort of an outdoor-oriented club where they go hiking in the Southern California area.
Awesome. And we don't have a ton of time left, so I'm gonna just do some quick questions for you all. But Megan, I know we talked about you adding your business minor. Can you tell us what that process was like of getting that minor? What did you need to do, and what does that look like for you?
So the process is pretty simple. I just emailed my academic advisor in the QBio department that I wanted to add a minor. She CC'd the business department and kind of just gave my name and ID, and they just added it for me. So from officially having it, then I met with both my advisor and my business minor advisor to plan out the courses that I would take and how they kind of fit into my schedule, considering my major and my PDP, just making sure that I'm taking all the necessary courses, like when I'm going to take them. But it's not competitive. Specifically for minors, it's very simple to add.
Awesome. Great. And then for Jackson, we have had so many students saying, can you repeat the name of that class with the food? What is the name of that class where you get to go eat food?
Yeah, so it's in the Spatial Sciences Institute. It's SSCI 175. So they talk about called food, health, and place. And this is one of our actually get to go eat and see things in the field, but they study food insecurity and a lot of the food network as a whole. So not fully focused on the eating of the food, but food as it works in our society.
Awesome. And since we're asking you questions too, Jackson, I do want to stick with you. How many classes per semester are you normally taking? What does that kind of look like for you in your breakdown?
So I normally take four-unit classes, and then I'll add on a 2-unit course to explore something that I'm interested in. I've done this taking a couple programming courses, mixing in a business class, or I took a competition mathematics class that was 2 units. So I like to stay with 4 classes. That keeps me in my GEs and my major classes pretty well balanced. And then I like to take a 2-unit to have a little bit more fun in my schedule and add that to it.
Awesome. So this last question, I do want you all to kind of take a second, think about it a little bit. So when you were a senior in high school, what do you wish you knew then that maybe you know now? Or what advice would you want to give to somebody who's applying to college? I know, Megan, you are just about ready to graduate. Same with you, Jackson. And I know as a junior as well. It's been a minute, but if you had to give advice to your high school senior self and applying to colleges, what advice would you give? And I know that might take a second to think about it. You all look like you're thinking, Jackson, you look ready. So I'm going to
Yeah,
have you
right.
answer. You're ready? Go for it.
I would say have a little bit of fun with it. You only get to do this once. Relax, take a deep breath. It's not going to be the end of the world. Just relax and have fun writing it. I like, I wish I had focused a little bit more on kind of enjoying what I was writing about versus getting the perfect wording or trying to get to a word count or trying to do some kind of research because I thought that's what I want. Someone on the internet told me I should have done for this specific college or this thing that I heard from a student somewhere. Just be yourself and have fun with it.
I love that, especially if a student has fun writing their application. I always have way more fun reading an application. So it definitely goes hand in hand for sure. Let's see, Aiko, what do you think?
I think this is something you'll hear a lot, but it's start early. I know you're a senior in high school. It's been a long 4 years or a long 3 years. But if you just give yourself more time, even if you write a rough draft and it's just a word vomit, get something on the page and give yourself time to, have space between when you initially wrote uh, the application and then give yourself time to come back to it and look at it with fresh eyes. And also ask your friends and other people in your life to proofread. I think when I was applying to college, I was kind of scared sometimes to ask people to read things because I was like, oh, they're gonna tell me it's bad, or oh, I don't want to waste their time. But you definitely have people who care about you in your life, and they'll be willing to help you. At least I hope so. So try not to procrastinate. That's something I also struggle with, but fight against that, and then also don't be scared to reach out for help.
Okay, so I had to think back 4 years, which is a while. But I would say talking to people who are currently in the universities you're interested in can be really helpful. There's only so much information you can pull from a website or from a YouTube video, which is kind of what I did. So like just talking to ambassadors from like a given school. So like I know people, or I know like Dornsife ambassadors are available for prospective students to like message and talk to. So just like asking them what their experience is like, what activities they do, that can really help like nourish your why USC or why blank college um, question, because you can kind of pull from real things, real experiences beyond just like citing a website. And then kind of similar to what Jackson said, this is your last year, so take some time, spend some time with your family, especially if you're thinking of going out of state. I know I miss my family a lot first year. So like spend time with family, with friends, and just know like ultimately like you will end up where you are meant to be. That's something that I had a lot of like confusion and stress about, like wanting to get into like your number one dream school. But like just know like wherever you go, you will eventually love, at least that's how like that's what happened to me with USC, is like eventually I fell in love with the school and I'm so happy that I came here. So just like I know it's really stressful, but just if you like have some assurance, like self-assurance that like it'll be okay. Um yeah, just be yourself and don't forget to spend time with your family and friends before you come to college.
Awesome. I know we only have about 4 minutes left or so. So if you want to give me like your quick 2 sentence why USC. I know it's probably going to be longer than that because there's so many things that you love about it. But if you had to do a very quick why USC, what does that sort of look like for you? And we'll just go in that same order. Jackson, do you want to start us off?
Yeah, big piece for me was getting away from East Coast winters. The weather here is gorgeous on campus. I wanted to go to a big school. I wanted to go for Pac-12 football and athletics, now Big Ten. So that was important to me, having a really great school culture, but also having that academic rigor. So I felt like USC was the perfect balance of that. I had a school where I thought I could try hard in my classes and succeed with a career later on, but also a place where I could enjoy the culture and the people around me and have some fun while I was at college.
I could go ahead and jump right in.
Yes, so I think the students at USC, everyone comes from such different backgrounds. You're going to meet people with the same, interests as you, no matter how niche, but then you're also going to meet people with so many new perspectives and just awesome ideas. And it makes for being able to make really great friends and also have really interesting class discussions. And then secondly, its location. I love Los Angeles. I think it's an amazing city for food, culture, everything. That was longer than 2 sentences, but I have a lot to say, a lot to love about this school.
For me, I think one of the main reasons is because of its rich extracurricular environment. USC, yes, the academics can be rigorous, but everyone you know is involved in something they're really passionate about. For me, that's my a cappella team. I remember hearing like a YouTube video of them singing, and I was like, okay, I gotta go to USC. But like that, the extracurriculars are so rich, and I think having the time and luxury of kind of immersing yourself in that is one reason. And the second is just the resources that USC provides because it is like a private school with the like smaller faculty ratio and like the one-on-one advising. Although it is a big school, you don't feel lost because you have those resources to, I guess, ground you. And if you have any questions, like people are very responsive on email. So I would say those are my reasons.
Awesome. I love that. And with that, that wraps us up for time for today. So thank you, of course, to everyone for joining us today. Thank you so much to our panelists for being here. I really appreciate the three of you taking the time to be able to share your experiences with all of our students here, with our staff. With that, one of our colleagues right now is going to be putting in our contact information. It is up here as well, but we'll also have that in the chat as well. So in case your question didn't get answered today, feel free to reach out to us, especially if you have very Dornsife specific questions. That's our direct contact to the Office of Admission. If you still have some more questions and want to get to know some more students, we do have additional virtual events coming up, and all of that will be sent to you by email, and you'll be getting that very, very soon. So we have a few more events coming up as well. Again, thank you for joining us today, and fight on.